Chuki beat.
What is up, my bodyweight warriors? Welcome back to another video, Bodyweight Basics episode 3. We are back today. However, I'm going to touch on something that isn't necessarily just bodyweight training. I don't think we can even begin to really discuss making proper optimal progress unless we start considering lifestyle. So that's nutrition, sleep, recovery. All of those things have such an impact on our goals, especially if there's some body composition involved. You can't really ignore it. And I'm sure if anyone's been around on this channel for a while, you know that I'm a big fan and I'm pretty passionate when it comes to nutrition. So for example, I thought I'd start today's vlog off just with my breakfast because it is now currently 1 p.m. I am fasting today. I do practice intermittent fasting. I've done a whole video about intermittent fasting and why I've done it for the past 3 years. So I'll link that one down below if you're interested. Today's breakfast is 2 fried eggs, about 80 grams of smoked mackerel. That's kind of my protein source. I got a little bit of raw cheese as well on the side. And then I'm chucked a bunch of veggies in there. So I've got kale with mushrooms, carrot, olives. And then I've got some homemade sourdough with olive oil on the side for some carbs pre-training. And that's kind of my breakfast. There's many reasons why I'm eating the breakfast that I'm eating, but I wanted to break it down for you and give you some basics of nutrition, hopefully undogmatically, that we can all agree on that you can then apply to your training, because ultimately that's what this series is about. You do the basics, you do them well, you'll get good results. And because I'm just a nice guy, what I thought I would do is give you 4 top tips, 4 basic things that you should be doing that will work regardless of whatever your dietary preference is. And that is number 1, calories. This probably seems really obvious, but you know, it's what people forget is the most important thing at the end of the day. Are you hitting the correct calories for your goal? If you want to build muscle, you need to be in a surplus. If you want to lose some body fat, you need to be in a deficit. If you want to stay around the same weight, you need to be on maintenance. Simple. That should be your base level. If you're not doing that, then the other stuff is kind of not that important. Next, we have macronutrients. And this is kind of the next step on from calories, but I'm sure you guys are aware of what they are. And this is where it comes into individual preference, because I personally do and feel better on a high fat, lower carb, moderate protein diet. So my macronutrients are roughly 20% protein, 30% carbohydrates, and around 50% fat. But that's what works for me. It doesn't mean it will work for you. This one's where you have to do a little bit of experimentation. Next, tip number 3, we have eat whole foods. This seems kind of ironic considering I'm just preparing my pre-workout, but this stuff is all kind of irrelevant unless you have that base of good nutrition. So whole foods, just avoiding processed foods, basically. And in terms of what is in this, I'm sure probably some people are wondering, is it essential? Absolutely not. Why am I doing it? Kind of because it's fun and I'm interested in what effect this has on my performance and then tweaking from there. And for those who are interested, I'll simply just put a thing on the screen which gives you the ingredients, because there's a lot. And lastly, eat your damn vegetables. It's probably the most basic thing. 7 a day is the current recommendation, but the way I like to think about it is every single meal that I consume, half of my plate is going to be vegetables. And that's kind of the way that I make sure. Calories, macros, whole foods, veggies. If you hit those, really you haven't got much else to worry about. So although this may seem a little bit basic for some of you, I think that's probably a good thing, because that means you're ticking those boxes, you've got good base level of nutrition, and then maybe you can start thinking about other things that are going to have smaller tweaks and benefits to your performance, longevity, etc. But you gotta remember, this is literally the basic series about keeping it basic. But as for now, it is time to go and train. So today's workout is a leg session, very similar to, I think, the first episode of this series. So I won't go into a huge amount of detail on that. I'll try and go into some finer details in the mobility and the stuff that you're probably interested in. I'm going to be relatively brief when it comes to the strength and conditioning portion of today's session because I want to give you some tips and tricks when it comes to mobility later on. I was starting off today's session with pause deadlifts, just the same as week one. The only difference here is we're just getting up in weight. I'm working about 110 kilos for 8 to 10 reps. I'm definitely feeling a lot stronger in this movement pattern. I almost felt like my mobility training had got to the point where I was compromising structural integrity and lower body strength. So adding these back in as well as some functional leg training, I just feel like I'm moving better than I was before. I also paired this in a contrast method with these kneeling jumps to kind of a standing to straight jump, just to add a little bit of explosivity in there, and that is kind of fun to do. I then had the multidirectional lunge, which I'm sure you've seen time and time again on this channel. This is one of my favorite leg exercises for working through all planes of motion. So I did those paired with some straight leg deadlifts, which for me is one of my favorite exercises when it comes to hamstring mobility, because what I do here is I focus on strengthening through full range of motion rather than just loading up the weight and doing some partial reps. So for me, it's kind of a strength and mobility combo. Then on to something I want to talk about, which is this Peterson Step Up. What this exercise is used for is for conditioning the VMO, which is this teardrop muscle on the inside of the leg. And it's very important when it comes to knee stabilization. So I've been doing this exercise and I just noticed that one, I wasn't very good on either leg, but two, I was significantly weaker on my left leg. You can see it shaking as I'm doing these reps here. So I'm definitely going to be including this one into future training just because of its importance when it comes to stabilizing the knee, and also because I love finding an exercise that I suck at, because this highlights a weakness that I maybe just didn't know that I had beforehand and something that I can go and work to improve. Right, on to mobility. So here is one of my favorite core exercises that I do after leg training and before my middle splits, and that is the side plank with hip adduction. Because what this does is it helps activate those glutes to open those hips in a manner of reciprocal inhibition. Learning to engage the glutes with the middle split is such a crucial element. It's why we do exercises like the pissing dog and the Tailor pose. So this is one of my favorite core combinations before jumping into mobility work. However, today was one of those days where I just felt really, really tight. The drill that I like to do after a brief warm up is this pancake straddle up into middle split. And this kind of tells me two things, if my pancake or if my middle split is tight. Today, it felt absolutely horrific. Usually it feels kind of okay, but not fun. But today I just knew it was going to be super tight and I wasn't going to be able to go ahead with my planned mobility session. So all I did was I reduced down the level of the mobility session to some more basic progression. So for me, the weighted frog pose is one of my favorites because it focuses purely on that adductor and that groin, and it takes out the knee, so it doesn't take a beating. And I like to spend here 60 to 90 seconds just doing rounds of PNF between the adductor and the glutes, like I've described in my PNF routine, which I'll link down below. And it definitely helped me get significantly deeper than I was at the beginning of the session, although it still definitely sucked. And after I did that, I decided to test out my middle split again, using that pissing dog exercise. And then I tried to slide in basically to see how deep I could go into middle splits. And you'll see here that the starting point is shocking, like it looks like where I was 3 months ago. And then I did actually end up getting to a point that was somewhat decent in terms of middle split flexibility, but I've regressed a little bit. I'm not really sure why. I have a feeling it's something to do with the DOMs that I've been getting from the ballistic pancake work, but I'll explain that to you in a second. So that, I'm back from the session in one piece, kind of, although I feel a little bit broken. Today was one of those days I just felt super stiff. Like, it doesn't happen very often, but when it does, everything is just a struggle, especially middle splits, because that's just always a struggle. I think it's probably made worse because I got some DOMs from doing that ballistic pancake stretching. I actually stopped doing it a few days ago because it just felt like too much, and I felt like I was almost getting a tweak in my hamstring. So I've stopped that completely, but I've still got DOMs from it. I still feel kind of a little bit fatigued, and fatigue does mask fitness to a certain extent, so I'm going to let that even itself out, see where I end up from that work that I did, and then kind of reassess and redesign my specific routine. But I'm just kind of excited to see how the next 4 weeks develops. As I said, it's been a while since I've really stuck to a training plan and been religious about it. I also did some handstands at the end, which I forgot to film, and it felt a lot better. So the shoulder is definitely pretty close to being recovered for getting back into the grind for the one-arm handstand in a few weeks' time. As it's also post-workout, that means it's time to get some food in. I've got here 2 bananas mashed up with some chocolate whey protein powder into like a sludge, and then some Greek yogurt and frozen berries on top as well. So basically sugar, protein. So what I go for post-workout, I think I've mentioned this one before. But that is it for this week, guys, the end of episode 3. I hope you enjoyed the nutrition side of things. As I said, it is so important for that training progress as well. If you do want to find out more about what we chatted about today, all the links are in the description down below. While you're down there, why not hit that like button, support the channel, show that you were enjoying the series. Why not leave a comment as well? Let me know your thoughts, your opinions, or anything you'd like to hear in the future. You can also hit that subscribe button, join the Bodyweight Warrior tribe at over 75,000 people strong. Absolutely crazy. But that has been it for this week, guys. Have a strong and healthy week. Peace.